It's funny. A friend of mine, super fit guy, eats well, the whole nine yards, ended up in the hospital last week. And they think it might be a heart attack. It really made me think, like, can exercise actually prevent heart attacks? I think it's something a lot of people wonder about, especially when you see healthy people having these issues. So we're diving into a YouTube video today by the Institute of Human Anatomy. It's all about heart attacks.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because there really are a lot of misconceptions about fitness and heart health. I think this video does a pretty good job at addressing those.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people just assume that if you're active, you're basically immune to heart problems. But as you said, it's definitely more complicated than that. So, to start off, what actually happens during a heart attack?
Well, the video uses this analogy of a house fire, and I think it's really helpful. So imagine your heart muscle is like a house, and the coronary arteries are like the fire hoses supplying water. In this case, the water is actually blood, right? So if something blocks the hose, the water can't reach the house, and parts of it start to die. That's essentially what happens during a heart attack, or what doctors call a myocardial infarction.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not that the entire heart stops working. It's more like a part of it gets damaged because it's not getting enough blood.
Right, exactly. And the video goes on to say that the aorta is like the main water pipe carrying that oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the body. And then you've got these smaller pipes that branch off, the coronary arteries, which are responsible for supplying blood to the heart muscle itself. So any blockage in those arteries is going to be a problem.
So it's kind of like the heart has its own little plumbing system to keep itself running.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Now, the video talks about this buildup of plaque in the arteries, atherosclerosis, and it sounds kind of scary, like a ticking time bomb.
Oh, it definitely is a serious issue. And the scariest part is that it's usually silent, at least in the early stages. Think of it like a pipe slowly getting clogged with rust and sediment over time. You might not even notice anything is wrong until the flow is really restricted.
So if there aren't always symptoms, how do you know if you're at risk?
Well, sometimes there's some warning signs, like with stable angina. The video describes it as this predictable chest pain that usually comes with exertion and then goes away when you rest. It's not a heart attack in itself, but it's definitely a red flag that something's not right.
So it's more of a wake-up call than like a full-blown emergency.
Exactly, yeah. It's your body telling you, hey, pay attention, something's not quite right here.
So if someone has stable angina, how does that turn into an actual heart attack?
Well, the video explains that it usually happens when a piece of that built-up plaque ruptures. And when we say ruptures, we don't mean like the artery bursts open or anything. It's more like a crack that forms in the plaque. And then your body's clotting system basically kicks into overdrive.
So it's like instead of a total blockage, you've got a crack and then a clot forming on top of it, making it even worse.
Exactly, yeah. And if that clot gets big enough, it can totally cut off blood supply to part of the heart muscle, and that's when you have a heart attack.
And I guess the severity of the heart attack depends on how much the heart muscle is affected.
Yeah, that's right. The video even talks about how heart attacks can range from mild to massive, like the most severe kind, the widowmaker, which blocks a major artery supplying a huge portion of the heart.
Wow, that sounds terrifying. So what are the classic symptoms of a heart attack? I know the video mentioned chest pain.
Right. Chest pain is definitely common, and it's often described as this crushing or squeezing feeling. And it can spread to your arms, your neck, jaw, back, even your abdomen. But it is important to remember that not everyone has the same symptoms. Some people have more subtle signs like shortness of breath, sweating, maybe nausea, even just this sense of impending doom.
So even if it doesn't feel like the classic movie heart attack, any unusual discomfort, especially in your chest, should be taken seriously.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always better to be safe than sorry and get medical attention if anything feels off.
So let's say someone does have those classic symptoms and ends up in the hospital with a possible heart attack. What happens next?
Well, the video goes over some of the emergency things they do, like giving aspirin to thin the blood, which can sometimes help break up that clot. They might also use nitrates, which help widen the blood vessels and get more blood flowing to the heart.
And I remember the video mentioned something about the cath lab. What happens there?
Oh, the cath lab, or the cardiac catheterization lab, that's where they can do a procedure called an angiogram. It's basically using x-rays and a special dye to actually see the heart's arteries, and they can pinpoint the exact location of the blockage.
So it's like getting a roadmap of your heart's plumbing system so they can see exactly where the problem is.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And once they find the blockage, they can often do an angioplasty, where they inflate a tiny balloon inside the artery to widen it. And a lot of times, they'll also put in a stent, which is like a little metal mesh tube, to keep that artery open.
It's pretty amazing that they can actually do that, restore blood flow, and potentially save lives. It really makes you realize how far medical technology has come.
It really is remarkable. But, obviously, the best case scenario is to prevent these situations from happening in the first place. And that's where the video's emphasis on prevention comes in.
Right, because even with those incredible interventions, a heart attack is still a major thing that can have lasting consequences.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to understand how lifestyle factors like exercise and diet play a huge role in protecting your heart health.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive into those preventive measures in the next part of our deep dive. Okay, so we talked about what happens during a heart attack and some of the things they do in the hospital. But I think what I'm most interested in is, how can we prevent these situations from even happening in the first place? The video really stresses how important exercise is for a healthy heart. But how exactly does it help?
Well, it's not just about burning calories or losing weight.
Mm.
When you exercise, especially cardio, your heart muscle actually gets stronger
Mm.
and it gets more efficient at pumping blood. It's just like any other muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets.
So it's like hitting the gym, but for your heart.
Yeah, exactly. And along with making the heart stronger, exercise also helps your blood flow better throughout your whole body. And that helps regulate your blood pressure, your cholesterol levels, even your blood sugar. And those are all major factors when it comes to your risk of heart problems.
So it's like exercise is giving your entire cardiovascular system a tune-up.
I like that. Yeah, it's like taking your car in for maintenance to keep it running smoothly.
And the video even mentioned that exercise can help your heart grow new blood vessels. Is that really true?
It is. It's pretty cool, actually. These new blood vessels are tiny. They're called capillaries, and they help deliver more oxygen and nutrients to your heart muscle. It's like expanding the road network in a city to keep the traffic flowing.
Wow, so we've got the exercise part down. What about diet? There's so much conflicting information out there, it's hard to know what to believe. What did the video say about eating for a healthy heart?
Well, I like that the video takes a balanced approach. There's no one-size-fits-all diet. But the main thing is to focus on eating whole, unprocessed foods, like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats, that kind of thing. And obviously cutting back on processed foods, sugary drinks, and too much salt is always a good idea.
So it sounds like it's less about being on a strict diet and more about making good choices most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to keep in mind that what works for one person might not work for someone else. So working with a doctor or a registered dietitian can be really helpful to figure out what's best for you.
That makes sense. Now, the video also talked about knowing your numbers, especially when it comes to cholesterol. Why is that so important, and what should we be aiming for?
Well, knowing your cholesterol levels is crucial because while lifestyle choices like diet and exercise can definitely impact them, your genes play a role too. And some people are just naturally predisposed to having higher cholesterol, even if they're living a healthy lifestyle.
So even if you're doing everything right, you could still be at risk.
Exactly. And that's why regular checkups and blood tests are so important. They give you and your doctor a much better understanding of your individual risk factors, and that can help guide your prevention strategies.
So it's like having a personalized roadmap for your heart health.
Exactly. And even if you're doing everything right lifestyle-wise and your cholesterol is still high, your doctor might recommend medication to help manage it. It's all about finding what works best for you.
This all makes me think about my friend again, being fit and still having a heart attack. Does that mean exercise is useless?
Oh, no, not at all. I think it just shows how complex heart health is and that there are a lot of different factors at play. It's also a good reminder that even if we're doing a lot of things right, there can still be underlying issues that we might not even be aware of.
So it's about managing our risk factors and making smart choices, but knowing that there are no guarantees.
Yeah, pretty much. We can do things to lower our risk, but we can't control everything.
I remember the video made a point about how much we spend on things like eating out or gadgets compared to how much we actually invest in our health.
Yeah, that really struck me too. It's so easy to get caught up in our daily lives and lose sight of what's truly important.
It's like we put convenience and entertainment ahead of our well-being sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's a good wake-up call to step back and look at our priorities. Are we putting enough emphasis on what really matters? Maybe that means cooking more at home, going for walks, even just making time to relax and de-stress.
It's all about making choices that support our health in the long run. Now, the video kind of shifted gears at the end, talking about a learning platform, and I have to say I was a little thrown off by that.
Oh yeah, I can see why that might seem out of place.
Mm.
But I think what they're trying to say is, just like we need to take care of our physical health, We need to nurture our minds, too.
So it's about feeding our brains with knowledge and learning new things throughout our lives.
Exactly. Learning keeps our minds sharp and engaged, and it can even contribute to our overall sense of well-being. It's like exercise for the brain.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. We talked about what happens during a heart attack, atherosclerosis, and how important prevention is through exercise, diet, and regular checkups. We also touched on the fact that recovery is possible after a heart attack, especially if you're proactive about rehab and making healthy changes.
Yeah, and we talked about how crucial it is to understand our own personal risk factors
Yeah.
and make informed choices, even though we can't control every aspect of our health.
But I think what really resonates with me is that even small changes can make a big difference. It's not about being perfect, it's about consistently trying to improve our heart health over time.
I totally agree. Every healthy choice we make moves us in the right direction. And it's about finding what works for you and making changes that you can actually stick with.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some of the main things you hope listeners will take away? So, covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but I think it all comes back to that question I had at the beginning. Can exercise really prevent heart attacks?
You know, after talking through all of this,
Hmm.
I think the answer is a little more complicated than just yes or no. Exercise is definitely super important for a healthy heart, but it's not like some magic shield that protects you from everything. We talked about how genetics play a role, your diet, other lifestyle choices, all of those things.
Right. It's like all these pieces of a puzzle, and exercise is one of them, but not the only one.
Exactly. And the good news is that even though we can't change our genes, we can do things to change a lot of those other factors just by making different choices each day.
So it's about being proactive and focusing on the things we can actually control.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Even small changes, if you do them consistently, they can make a big difference for your heart health over time.
Okay, so let's get practical then. What are some specific things people can start doing today to take better care of their hearts?
Well, moving your body is key. Aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise each week, or 75 minutes of something more vigorous. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can break it up throughout the day.
So like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, going for a walk at lunch, even just dancing around your living room, that all counts.
Absolutely. It's all about finding something you enjoy and actually making it part of your routine.
And what about food? Are there any easy swaps people can make to eat more heart healthy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is focusing on whole, unprocessed foods as much as you can. Things like fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean protein, and healthy fats. And then try to cut back on processed stuff, sugary drinks, and too much salt.
So instead of reaching for a bag of chips, maybe grab some almonds or a piece of fruit.
Exactly. And cooking at home more often is a great way to control the ingredients and how much you're eating.
You know, the video really stressed those regular checkups too. What are some of the things we should be talking to our doctors about?
Well, make sure you're getting your blood pressure checked and your cholesterol levels as often as your doctor recommends. Knowing those numbers is really important for catching things early and preventing problems down the road.
It's like taking your car in for regular maintenance, right? You don't want to wait until it breaks down to get it checked out.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions, especially if heart disease runs in your family.
You know, thinking about my friend again, the one who ended up in the hospital even though he's in such good shape, it really reminds you that heart attacks can happen to anyone, and it's important to know what the warning signs are.
Absolutely. Even if you think you're healthy, don't ignore things like chest pain, shortness of breath, or feeling unusually tired.
It's better to be safe than sorry and get checked out.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Early intervention is key.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into exercise and heart attacks, what's the one thing you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think it's important to remember that taking care of your heart is a journey, not a destination. It's not something you finish. It's about consistently making choices each day that help you live a healthier life.
And those choices don't have to be huge, right? It's the small things done consistently that really make a difference over time, like taking a walk at lunch, choosing water instead of soda, or just taking a few minutes to relax and de-stress. Every little bit counts. So to our listener, we'll leave you with this question. What's one small change you can make today to invest in your heart health? And remember, you have more power than you think to create a healthier, happier life. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.